Alright guys, so I want to take the time to have a little conversation about Destiny 2 episode Heresy Act 2, because Act 2 has finally come to its final conclusion, bringing on the start of Act 3, which is going to be next week at the time of this recording. Wow, what an act. There is a lot to talk about here, and guys, I want you to stick around for this one because I'm really interested to know what your opinion is of this act as well. So I'm going to start this off by saying that episode Heresy is such a huge, refreshing feeling for me because they hit a lot of high notes with this one. Every single week, every single Tuesday, I actually look forward to it again. Like, so many times before, you just think, it's the reset, not much is gonna happen, I'll just be chasing pinnacles and getting some roles that I don't have already. However, this was completely different. I was so excited to see where the story was going with every single beat that they landed on us. The way that Bungie are delivering their story now, especially in episode Heresy, I just wish so much we see more of, because it's just on point. The dialogue is fantastic. Like, keep in mind, guys, in this episode, in this act, we didn't even have some of the voice lines voice acted because of the whole strike that's going on, which is absolutely fine. However, it didn't take away from how insane this act actually was. Just to put some notes out there, we had the three sisters come together again and have a conversation in episode Heresy. The last time we saw that happen was never. We've only ever read about that in the lore. We literally had Oryx, Zivuraf, and Savathun come together and have a conversation, and oh god, it's just so good. And just being able to see the Hive symbols around the dreadnought as well, which leaves a print, leaves a memory of something that's happened in the past as well. So you have the Witch Queen symbol for Savathun, you have Zivuraf symbol for something that's going to be Zivuraf related, and just listening to the dialogue from Oryx as well, it just hits so many notes. Also just listening to just conversations that actually happened that we only ever read about. So for example, when Oryx, Zivuraf, and Savathun, back before they were actually, back before when they became these iconic characters, when it was Orash and Sathona, etc, etc, we literally read in the lore that they were traveling away and just trying to find a different path for the Krill before they were known as the Hive, by following a worm that was given to them from their dad that passed away. And just listening to that conversation of Sathona actually having that conversation with the worm, guiding them towards the deep. That was only ever lore that we knew about, that we read about from lore books and grimoire cards, and really, specific things that if you weren't too much in the lore, you'd really have to dig deep to know that information. And just knowing that you can just listen to remnants of those memories by exploring the dreadnought in this episode, I loved it so much, because the moment I was able to listen to a conversation that happened, in my mind, because I loved the lore so much, I was able to pinpoint that to exactly when that happened and what they're referring to. And just having that feeling as someone that really just cares so much about the rich, deep lore, that just, it just feels so good. Absolute chef kiss off to Bungie when it comes to just those little details. Moving on to the activities. The activities were actually fun as well. They were genuinely so fun, and the rewards were actually rewarding. Can you believe that? Actually an activity that's worth doing, whereby the rewards are actually fun to chase. And not to mention the Tomb of Want, being able to actually focus specific weapons and get certain god rolls, like jolting feedback on the machine gun. So good. There's just a lot there that I've just quickly crammed all into a very quick conversation there that I just love so much. Now, with the story beats, going back to the lore, this is mainly just specifically what this video is about, to be honest with you. It's mainly about how they presented the lore of this episode. They hit so many notes. Not only did this episode start off with an absolute banger, spoiler warning, when Eris Morn gets stabbed in the chest, and then they literally just drag her across the ground and then just basically throw her off the cliff. And then we find out that that stasis subjugator is the first knife, the first one that the Witness ever created, the first of its kind. And then being able to read the actual dialogue that the Witness had with this specific subjugator, listening to the subjugator's point of view on what it represents in life, and different voices that it can hear, and different paths that it wants to take because it doesn't know what direction it wants to go in. I can't specifically remember the name of the subjugator, even though it's literally on the tip of my tongue, but I'm sure you guys know it as well. But it's just absolutely incredible just being able to drop that in there. Also, what happens in this episode is we see the ritual ceremony of what it is like to become taken. And again, this is something that we have only ever read about in the lore, and we actually get to see it a couple of times, and not only that, interrupt it when it happens. It's like, I don't think people actually fully grasp how incredible that is. Not only do we interrupt the actual migration of a living thing currently being taken by an entity that we don't even know of just yet, which I'll talk about in just a moment. That in itself is incredible. We had to go to the Ascendant Plane, a different pocket of the Ascendant Plane, and actually interrupt this thing from happening. It was just so good. And again, reading the lore books, reading the weapons that all have lore tabs on them, and just listening to this thing, this entity, this unknown thing that we don't know about yet, just lurking in the background, just presenting itself to us in such a way that it's just so eerie. And the amount of speculation that I've seen online in regards to what this thing is, what this entity could be, has just sparked up such fandom and such hype and such creativity for us lore people. Again, it's just so cool seeing so many theories out there. Personally myself, I know I can go on a bit of a tangent when it comes to the lore, but personally myself, I actually think it's a member of the 4, which is part of the 9, specifically the member of the 4 that interrupted the satellites when the Cabal came and attacked the last city, because that particular of the 4 got punished very severely. But there is just so much about the 9 in the lore currently that we know, which lines up to a lot of what we know right now in the Heresy lore. It just matches up so perfectly. But a lot of what I know has personally just come from me digging into Ishtar collectives and Grimoire cards and just being a Destiny fan and playing the game since the beta of Destiny 1. I love just digging deep and just finding everything I possibly can out about the lore. Not saying I'm this big amazing lore master myself, but I want to put that out there because if I'm going to be giving these opinions and giving my feedback, I also want people to know that I do have my brain in the right place sometimes when it actually comes to the lore of this game. In fact, it's probably the only thing that I'm good at in this life, to be quite honest with you, hence why I'm making videos on it. But apart from that, yeah, I think a lot of things point towards the 9. There's certain dialogue that is used from the 9 in the past, which is now being brought up specifically again in current lore cards and lore books, which literally ties into what the 9 are saying and what the 9 are doing. We also have this new activity which is coming about in literally Act 3, which is called Rights of the 9. That word rights becoming a very specific word, again tying back to what the 9 said in previous lore books. Again, you can go and check out Avaze and buy for those specific hints there, but everything just seems to match up perfectly. All of this was crammed in Act 2, which was such an incredible delivery. Nothing felt rushed. Nothing felt out of place. Everything lined up perfectly. And there are so many plot points that they have set up within this act, which is just absolutely insane. And now there's going to be even more spoilers ahead, so if you don't want to listen to spoilers, obviously click off now and play the game. But now we're going to be going into a little bit of spoilers. So, plot points. What did Act 2 bring to us? Well, we've got the introduction of Eris's throne world now. That is confirmed. That is an absolute thing. Eris has a throne world now. We've got the Navigator, Oryx himself. He is now trapped in Eris's throne world as its own prison. Now that Oryx is trapped in the throne world, we've got Xivu Araf and Savathun, which is more than likely going to come together and actually team up to try and free their brother, their Navigator, from that prison. So that's going to be another lore point. We've also got a conflict of interest now, whereby Oryx is questioning his own faith because he can see that Savathun is a light bearer now. We've got Xivu Araf, who's contemplating taking the actual throne of the Taken King, doubting herself because she doesn't want to take that away from her own brother. We've also got Oryx calling us king, which is absolutely such a spot-on incredible line. Oryx, because he loves the sword logic and respects the sword logic and just believes in that faith so much, actually has a certain level of respect for us as the Guardian, as his killer, because we were able to take down such a formidable foe that he sees us as worthy. So even though he shouldn't even really like us, he has that level of respect of us and actually calls us king. Obviously Xivu Araf doesn't like that, but because she sees that her brother has a certain level of respect for us as the Guardian, there's even some dialogue from Xivu Araf where even she shows us a little bit of respect because of Oryx's respect for us as well. And then obviously you've got this entity in the background, which obviously we don't know confirmed what that is to be yet, but we know that it's going to be quite a potent thing because you've got the eyes that are constantly spawning. We've got that weight of darkness debuff, which is in the game now. We've got tentacles everywhere. Like, there is something out there. We don't know what it is. A lot of things are pointing towards the 9. That obviously brings up more things to do with the 9 because we've got lore books now which are mentioning more and more about conversations that the 9 have had. I think there was a lore tab recently which came out, which is a conversation of the 9 9. Specifically, actually, there was 8 of them talking. We're missing one of them, so go and check that out as well. There is a lot packed in here. We've also got the conflict between Eris Morn and Sloane as well, because Sloane doesn't fully agree with Eris Morn's plans, which is a little bit ridiculous really, because Eris Morn has done enough, personally in my opinion, for us to warrant that trust and know that Eris Morn has got everything under control. Yeah, oh my god. I absolutely think they have done an absolutely fantastic job. Everything that I have just thrown at you guys right now is just me very quickly just getting it all out there. Whereas Bungie carefully, strategically, and so brilliantly executed the story of Act 2 in such a flawless way. In such an absolutely flawless way. Now, Bungie obviously doesn't have the most amazing track record. However, when they get these wins, when they get these W's, I think we absolutely should be praising that, because this, as a community member of the lore side of things, this is what we want. This is exactly what I'm looking for. That lust and that want and that craving, that need for the story, this delivered. And not to mention that cinematic. Oh my god, that cinematic was absolutely insane. And actually, speaking of that cinematic, there's a piece there that I've actually not seen people report on yet, which I'm hopefully going to find a picture for. If I don't have a picture for it, sadly I won't put it on the screen. It just means I can't find it. But long ago, there was concept art way before Beyond Light even came out that the Scarlet Keep was actually going to be on Europa. That was rich, deep lore, that apparently there is a Scarlet Keep on Europa, and we were actually supposed to get Europa as part of the Shadowkeep expansion. Now, obviously, that didn't happen. We got the Scarlet Keep on the moon, and then obviously later when Beyond Light came out is when we got introduced to Europa. However, in the cinematic that they released with obviously the potent, vibrant individual that is Xivu Arath being so prompt in that cinematic, when you see her cut through reality and you start going through all of these different planes, you actually see the Scarlet Keep on Europa, which is a really good nod and a really good tease to the pre-concept art that we had before Shadowkeep even came out, that Europa was supposed to be where the Scarlet Keep was supposed to be. So that's a good little nod there, good little attention to detail, and I actually haven't seen anyone report on that yet, but again, you really have to dig deep into really old concept art, which I have done myself, to actually know those little tidbits. But that's the most amazing thing about Destiny. I mean, sometimes it is a little bit frustrating how you have to go and watch a YouTube video to understand the rich, deep lore, unless you're someone like myself where you don't mind digging deep into all of these things to find out all the nooks and crannies. Obviously, you know, you'd enjoy something like that, but realistically, you'd want to play a game in order to probably understand that game. But the story of Destiny is just so rich and so deep and so potent and so vibrant with so many different things. Sometimes it's hard to keep up of, but honestly, I love it. And Act 2 hit every single note. As a lore guy, perfectly fine. I loved it. It was incredible. The only downside, I think, for this act that actually I would have, personally myself, if I'm just being honest, is getting Hatchling for Barrow-Dyad. Having to replay that activity, or the Nether, constantly over and over to get rank 12 to unlock Hatchling as a perk on your exotic is a little bit infuriating, but that's not a lore thing, that's a gameplay thing, and I can easily overlook it because I've already got it done. Yes, it was annoying, but I got it done. Do I mind it? Yeah, I do actually. I do mind it, but it's done, so I don't need to worry about that anymore. But yeah, apart from that, fantastic. Bungie, 10 out of 10. Well done from me. And I'm very excited to see where things go with Act 3. I cannot wait for Rights of the Nine. I cannot wait for that fun little activity where we get to be either in a tank or a brig and just have a little bit of fun just blazing it up in a random activity that means nothing. And I cannot wait to see where the story goes. Now we know that Xivu Arath is on the go. Now we know that Savathun is on the go. We have the Echo of the Navigator trapped in Eris's throne world. Obviously Savathun and Xivu Arath, I'm not going to be happy about that. I cannot wait to see what goes on with that. I cannot wait to see the clash between Oryx and Savathun again, when Oryx absolutely exploded on her when she revealed to Oryx, when she actually showed him Amaru, her ghost. I could honestly talk more about this, but I've been ranting on a long time now. TLDR, fantastic. Cannot wait to see where the story goes, and I'm excited for the future of Destiny, and it feels so very good to see that. But now I'm going to pass it off to you guys in the comments below. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are. I'm really interested to know what your thoughts and theories are, especially for what this hidden entity is. All of the knowledge that I have and based on the information that I know versus the lore from the past in Grimoire cards, and obviously with what we have now in relation to the 9. It does make sense for it to be a member of the 4. particularly the one that obviously gets into quite a bit of trouble. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts and opinions are in the comment section below. Guys, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you. I appreciate this. And let's get that feeling back, that love for Destiny again. Guys, thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.